Yes, everybody? Okay. I always run through this version of it so I can quickly move back and forth between slides. So welcome to the September 21st, 2020 Rose City Astronomers General Meeting. We don't have a lot of business, but we have a little. First of all, we have I'm Margaret, I'm president of the club. I usually introduce the officers at this point, but I just want to say that we're pretty much where we were last month in terms of how the club is running. We've got the calendar going, we've got the speakers for the rest of the year. Our membership, that number looks really low, and Ken is going to explain to us how our membership year goes and encourage us to renew. So it's Ken is our membership manager, our VP of membership, and I gave him a minute to talk to us about membership.
Well, I did send out a notice today to encourage people that haven't renewed their membership to go ahead and do so. My guess is nobody here in this meeting got that email, because I'm sure you all are members in good standing. But I sent out over 200 emails. Those are the people that are late. We usually get about 20 to 30% of people that drop out, and then we get another 20 or 30 people to make up for them. Our membership typically runs pretty close to, it has been running pretty close to 800. And this membership number of 575 is just the membership of those folks who are current on their membership. It doesn't count any of the ones that are in arrears. Anyway, so let's see, what else? I guess that's about all I really have to say about the membership. So are there any other questions?
Okay, well, if you haven't renewed by September 30th, are you going to be dropped? And then at that point, you will not get the Gazette, you won't be able to get into the forum, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. Yeah, you'll be stricken from the forum, and you will no longer get any emails from the Rose City Astronomers.
Right. But you see that last year at this time, we had 498. So we're actually, in terms of our membership, we're ahead this year than at this time than we were at this time last year. So our membership is holding pretty strong.
Yeah, and that's mainly because the Wild Apricot membership management system was pretty diligent in sending out reminders.
Yeah, that's been working pretty well. Okay, the calendar, I'm sorry?
Just to remind everybody, our memberships are family memberships also.
Right.
So if you renew, it's for your whole family.
Yeah, that's right. Our calendar, we have until, again, September 30th. September 30th is an important date in our club's annual year to get your images to Bhavesh for our calendar, our published calendar. And this year, the calendar is going to be mailed. Our goal is to have it for sale by the October meeting, and you will be able to order it from us, and we will mail it to you. We also have a calendar manager, Tammy Ross. So if you want to get something on the calendar, or you have a question about something that's on our calendar that's online, please contact her about that. This is the time that we begin to prepare for our officer elections. So I'm going to have Duncan Kitchen, our secretary, talk to us about our elections. Duncan, it's yours.
Okay, thank you. I'll make this quick. We're following the same procedure that we do every year as set down in our bylaws to elect new officers. There are certain positions on the board that are specified as elected positions. Many other positions are appointed by the elected board members. So we have showing here on the slide that Margaret is presenting the 8 elected positions: president, secretary, treasurer, vice president membership, vice president of programming, vice president communications, vice president observing, and vice president outreach. Nominations are made by yourself if you want to be considered for one of these positions. If you want to stand for election, get in touch with me via the email address that's shown here, and you can be added to the slate, or just talk to one of us about what you would like to do. If other than these elected positions, you're interested in serving on the board, we do also have any number of appointed positions, and we have a number of appointed at-large board member positions. So please feel free to contact myself or Margaret about that if you're interested in getting involved. So nominations are open from now until this time next month, and we will then present a slate for elections at the following meeting.
Right. Yeah, I think we open the slate for nominations in September. We close it in October, and that gives you a month to decide who you want to vote for. So we almost never have 2 positions. In fact, I have never seen.
I don't think it's ever happened.
Ever.
I don't think it has ever happened that we've had 2 people.
2 people
running for one slot.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do a little check-in here. As we were talking before the meeting, we were talking, of course, about the wildfires. They have affected 2 of the members that I know of. Sean Curry, who used to live here in Portland, moved to Talent, Oregon a few years ago. So when I heard about the loss in Talent, I contacted him, and he is fine. He and his wife lost their electricity and their water for about a week, but their home is still intact, and they're doing okay. But they say the town of Talent, Oregon is pretty much wiped out, and so they're going to be having to work together as a community to rebuild. And of course, probably many or most of you know about Richard Berry's loss. He's here. He was talking to us before the meeting about all the rebuilding that they're going to have to do. Lost his home, and I think the last I heard, the observatory was partially damaged but not lost. And he lives on an alpaca farm, and the alpacas were not injured. He did suggest that if you want to give to help out, the Santiam Fire Relief Fund is something that you can donate money to. It's a community fund, and that, of course, is a community that, like Talent, is going to have to rebuild. There are several other funds. I know KGW is raising money to give to the Red Cross for these wildfires, and there's several others. So although we all kind of want to go out and help out right away, I think the best thing to do at this point is give money. In the future, families that have had a devastating loss like this are going to need help sort of about the time that everybody's kind of forgotten about it and moved on. And that's the point where you really need the support. So I intend that we will not forget Richard and Sean, and we will stay in touch with them and see what they need to keep going. And I thought it would take a couple minutes here to just have a few people just check in and tell us how you're doing. I, for one, have just sort of felt kind of on edge for 2 or 3 weeks now, and I'm tired of it, and I'm glad to be breathing sweet, clean air. And I'm just was kind of wanting to check with everybody else and see how everybody's doing. Let's have Mark open the mics. So anybody who wants to can speak up and just let me know how you're doing. Did you have any scares? You
shut them off. Can't you turn them back on though and turn it back off again?
Yes.
Yeah, you can turn them back off. Does anybody, did anybody have to leave
Listen.
their home?
Yeah.
Does anybody know somebody in the club who was, other than these two people who were affected by these fires?
I belong to the Portland Weather Facebook group, and the guy who normally posts every single day observations, I'm afraid Jay lost his home. So
And
that's
where was
one
he
more
living?
person, Jay Wolfman. He lives, where does he live? Santiam Valley, somewhere down there.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait, he was Eagle Creek area.
Okay.
Eagle Creek area.
Yeah, that's not far from where I live. I was,
Because you're just talking. She's the drunk lady. Don't ask her. I think she's tipsy.
who's tipsy?
You.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, the zone 2, I was in zone 1. Zone 2 came within about 20 feet of my front door, which frightened me, but so I slept a couple nights in my clothes thinking I was going to have to leave. And the advice that I've heard from people is if you're in zone 2, just go ahead and go. Don't wait until it becomes an evacuation order, so you don't get caught in traffic. But let's just hope that we're done with this for this year.
So Margaret, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody again,
Yeah,
but then I'm going
okay.
to have to unmute you, I believe. So please stand by for just a second. All righty.
Have you unmuted me?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. Okay, and then I only have one more slide here, and that's accomplishments. Dawn organized a multi-site, actually multi-state online star party via the Basin Range Dark Sky Cooperative, and it went very well. I was impressed, and some RCA members joined that, and some people down in California, Idaho. It really was a fun evening. Jim Todd has been offering virtual star party events at Oregon wineries. He's offered, I think, 6 of these or something all summer, and they've gone very well. And I wanted to alert you that viewing up at Stub has gone very well. We were a little worried that everybody was going to want to go running up there as soon as it was open to us again. But that hasn't happened. It's just been very moderate, and people go up there when it looks like it's going to be a good night, and there'll be, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 observers up there, and it's just been, I think, pretty successful. So that's all I have. We have precious little club business these days, but I'm going to turn it back over to Mark.
All right, thank you, Margaret. So I'd just like to introduce Jim Todd, who will give us the monthly sky report. Good evening, Jim.
Hey, good evening. And I'm glad to hear that everybody is doing well. And, you know, this is a pretty remarkable time. And so I'm happy to give you my report for the month of September. Pretty exciting, actually. I want to make sure that that is not showing up on there. And there we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what's happening in the month of September. And since the last virtual meeting, because in September, the moon appeared on September 2nd. Now I'm going to talk about the moon a little bit later, but that full moon was called the corn moon. And generally in September, we see the harvest moon, but not this month. And so I want to also point out that astronaut Jerry Carr passed away, and he was part of the Skylab 3. He was in the crew with Ed Gibson, and Ed Gibson was a former president for OMSI some years ago. And I got a chance to meet with Jerry because he came to visit Ed Gibson, and very nice gentleman. And then, of course, we've just been talking about this, the fires, and it was visible from 1,000,000 miles away. And it was very prevalent. And you could see that the whole West Coast was lit up on satellites, and you could see easily the smoke clouds from 1,000,000 miles away. And then September 11th, we had Neptune in opposition. At that point in time, it was in the constellation of Aquarius at a magnitude of 7.8. Not visible to the naked eye, but was easily seen in a basic backyard telescope. Looking ahead, tomorrow, believe it or not, is the autumnal equinox. And so it occurred at September 22nd at 6:30 a.m. And that's when the sun is going to be directly over the equator. Now, it's kind of funny to talk about this because we started doing the virtual meetings on the last equinox. And so we're going from equinox to equinox, and it's a whole event. And so what happened on that day, we're halfway from the summer solstice to the winter solstice. And on that, around this time, we're seeing 12-hour days and 12-hour nights. And the angle of the sun is getting lower. And so you probably noticed that. And if you were at the equator, the sun would be directly overhead. And that's when that marked the very time, right at that moment, it's the equinox. And so if you were at the equator, you would have no shadow underneath, you'd be right underneath your feet. And so technically, people say, well, we're going to get 12-hour days from 12-hour nights, but almost. What's happening is on the 25th, here in our latitude, because we're 45 degrees, our latitude, we see true 12-hour days on the 25th of September. So if you're getting into any debate with anybody saying, no, it's not really 12-hour days, just tell them it's on the 25th for our latitude location. And for the month of September, generally it's a harvest moon, but this month it's known as the corn moon. And so what happened is, technically, to be a harvest moon, you have to have a full moon closest to the equinox. So that means the next full moon is going to be on October 1st. And it's technically going to be the harvest moon. Right? And so on October 1st is the first full moon. Then the second full moon is going to be the what we call the hunter's moon, but it's also going to be the blue moon. So we'll have an event coming up that people are going to be talking about: the hunter's moon, Halloween, blue moon. Right? And so they occurred on the 31st of 2020, and it's the second full moon in a single calendar month. Right? And so was it truly a blue moon? Well, it started in 1937 in the Farmer's Almanac, and they had two full moons, and the second one was colored blue. Now, some would say that if we had the moon up during the fire the last couple of weeks, it might have appeared as blue because we have all the dust and smoke. I never saw it, but I don't know if anybody else had seen that it could have been a blue moon. But technically, the blue moon is just a name for the event. And then the planets are kind of showing up now. We still have Jupiter and Saturn in the evening. Venus is still prominent in the morning sky. We have two opposition, Neptune and Uranus. Okay? And so essentially what's happening is here at the Earth in relation to the sun, this is noon, this is midnight, counterclockwise. There's Neptune opposition. There's Jupiter and Saturn in the evening. There's Venus in the morning. There's Mercury now coming up. And that kind of gives you a kind of perspective. And so if you were out looking at the planets, we have Jupiter and Saturn about roughly 5 degrees apart. Still plenty of time to view both of these gas giants. And down over here in the east, we have Mars. And I'll talk about Mars in just a bit. But we have Uranus just to the left. And it just passed opposition. And I'll talk about that. And then in the morning, we have Venus. And then if you look in the southwest, you'll still see Mars and Uranus. So for my object of the month, for the month of September, could people go out and look at Uranus? And Uranus is in the constellation of Pisces. and it's just barely at 6 magnitude. I mean, technically it's visible, but we highly recommend that you see a telescope or binoculars, get a really good viewing of Uranus. And so if you use the Pisces, and it's going to be in opposition on the 31st of October. So we have a blue moon and we have opposition occurring at the end of the month. So it's going to be about 6 magnitude. This is a fun thing to challenge yourself. You want to go out and take a look at Uranus. I've seen it a few times, and it's basically a blue dot, but it's fun to look at if you have an opportunity. And you can see it with the 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch telescope, works pretty well. Naked eye, you have a pretty sharp vision. Then we have coming up on the 26th of September, which is coming up. We have the moon going to swing by Saturn and Jupiter. And then we have Mercury making an appearance just after sunset. And people might be confused and looking for Mercury, thinking they're looking at Mercury, but it's actually the star Spica and Mercury. And then up here, there's Arcturus. So get a good map and orient yourself, but you have to have really good western horizon to be able to see Mercury at all. And then we have the opposition coming up on October 6th with Mars. Is going to be at a -2 magnitude. It's going to be nice and bright. It's in the constellation of Pisces. So every other year, we see Mars get its closest point to the Earth. And then, just announced, cycle 25 had just begun. Okay? So what that means is we finish out 24, we're at a minimum. And scientists are saying now that we're just now starting up on cycle 25. And so this is going to give you a perspective. This is the sun at maximum. This is the sun at minimum. So when you have minimum, you have fewer activities along the equator. At maximum, you have all sorts of activities occurring and visible around the equator. And this picture was just taken on the 21st, and just coming around the fringe is a huge prominence. Okay? And so that definitely, it's an indicator that we're starting to head into cycle 25. And then the International Space Station is still visible until about October 7th. It's now becoming an evening object. And so at some point you can see it twice a night. And you can find all the data for the sighting for the space station on spotthestation.com. And for any location around the world, you get the map, all of that, to watch the International Space Station. And then, Margaret mentioned, you have until the end of this month to submit your images for the calendar, but here are some opportunities that are coming up for you that you can take pictures. Encourage you to turn them in. We really would love to see the pictures that you come out for the past year. And that is it. So hopefully everybody stay healthy, stay away from those fires, and that is it.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jim.